The invitation had arrived 2 weeks earlier, printed on thick cardstock with balloons embossed into the corners, as if texture could soften history. My sister texted after, "Hope you can make it," a message that read like a courtesy rather than a desire. I said yes anyway. I always did. It felt like proof that I was still trying, which I'd confused for virtue. We arrived early. I thought early might be safer. That it would give my daughter time to settle before the room, filled with cousins and noise. She wore the yellow dress she liked, because it swayed when she spun. I told her not to touch the cake. She nodded, solemn, as if I'd given her a job. My mother greeted us with a kiss stopped just short of my cheek. She bent to my daughter and said, "You've gotten tall," which was true and also a way of not saying anything else. The living room had been rearranged to create space around the table. The cake sat there, central and elevated, its topper, a little plastic crown, tilted slightly to one side. It looked unstable. It looked like it wanted to be fixed. I watched my daughter circle the table like a planet with its own gravity. I watched my mother watch her. This was familiar, the waiting. The quiet inventory of errors not yet made. People arrived, plates clinked. My sister moved through the room with her practiced smile, the one she used when she wanted to be admired for managing things. I stood near the wall, my hand resting lightly on my daughter's shoulder, as if proximity alone could keep us both acceptable. When it happened, it was small. My daughter reached out and straightened the crown. Just that, no smearing of icing, no harm. The crown sat straighter than before, obedient now. The sound of the slap was sharper than I expected, a quick corrective noise. Not loud, but precise. My daughter's arm jerked back. She didn't cry. She looked up, confused, and then at me, searching for the script. "This is not for you," my mother said, low and close, her voice shaped like a secret. "You don't belong in this family." The words landed and kept landing. They didn't echo, they pressed. I felt the room decide what it was going to do. And what it decided was nothing. No one said her name. No one said hey. A fork scraped against a plate. Someone laughed too late at something unrelated. I didn't feel rage the way people describe it. I felt clarity. A narrowing. The kind that comes when a long argument ends not with persuasion but with proof. I knelt beside my daughter. I didn't touch her arm yet. I met her eyes. "Come here," I said, and when she did, I put my hand over the place where my mother had struck her, not to soothe, there was no mark, but to claim. Then I stood and said the 4 words. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't look around for support. "Do not touch her." It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't clever. It was simply true. My sister's smile fell in on itself, a structure suddenly without scaffolding. My mother's fork slipped from her fingers and hit the plate, then the table, then the floor. The sound was loud enough this time that people turned. Someone, an aunt I think, said my name, uncertain, as if testing it. My mother stared at me, and for a moment I saw something like calculation cross her face. Not remorse, assessment. She had spent years believing that silence was her ally. That authority lived in her mouth because it had always gone unchallenged. "I was just," she began. "No," I said, and it surprised me how easily it came. "You weren't." There it was, the authority, visible and concrete. Not because I claimed it but because the room recognized it. My father stood up. He didn't say anything either, but he moved the chair back, the legs scraping in a way that announced a decision. My sister reached for her son, suddenly attentive. Someone picked up the fork and set it beside my mother's plate like an offering. I took my daughter's hand. "We're going," I said, not as a threat but as a fact. At the door, my mother called my name. I turned. She opened her mouth again and then closed it. She nodded once, as if agreeing to something we had not discussed. It wasn't an apology. It was an acknowledgement of changed terms. In the car, my daughter asked, "Why did she say that?" I started to explain and stopped. "She was wrong," I said instead. "And she doesn't get to decide that." "Okay," she said, and looked out the window, already done with it in the way children can be when adults don't make them carry things that aren't theirs. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat on the edge of her bed and let the delayed feelings arrive. Not triumph. Something quieter and heavier. Grief maybe. For the version of family I had kept hoping would show up if I behaved well enough. Shame too. For how long I had accepted the small cuts because they didn't bleed. The days after were calm in the way that follows a storm that never quite breaks. My sister texted. That was intense. Then, later, Mom feels attacked. I didn't respond. I wasn't interested in translating reality into something more comfortable. A week later, my father called. He said he wanted to see my daughter. Alone, the implication hung. I said we could meet at the park. He agreed too quickly. When my mother didn't come, I felt both relief and a new kind of sadness. Power had shifted, yes, but it had also revealed the cost. We sat on a bench while my daughter climbed and fell and climbed again. My father watched her with something like wonder. She's fearless, he said. She shouldn't have to be. I replied, and he nodded, because nodding was what he knew how to do. Months passed. Holidays were rearranged. Invitations changed shape or didn't come at all. My mother sent a card on my birthday with neat handwriting and no message. I understood it as an attempt to exist without conceding. Sometimes I replay the moment in my head, the slap, the words, the silence. I don't imagine saying anything different. I don't imagine screaming. The power was never going to from volume. It came from refusal. From deciding that dignity didn't require an audience. My daughter doesn't remember the party. She remembers the park. She remembers the yellow dress. She remembers that when someone hurt her, I was there, and that I did not negotiate about it. That feels like enough. Not victory. Not closure. Just a line drawn so clearly that even those who pretend not to see it have to step around it.